and welcome to this very special session where we have with us a very special guest. And it is Mr. Alok Kumar, who is the President and CEO of NEC Corporation India. Alok, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me over, Suchetna.
Before we dive into the many questions that I have for you, Alok, let me give a short introduction to the company that is NEC, which of course requires no introduction, but I'll do it nonetheless. NEC, the ICT behemoth, a world leader in biometrics, ORAN, AI, and plethora of technologies, has been working behind the scenes in making the digital revolution a reality. Headquartered in Japan, NEC's India operations began some 70 years back in the 1950s, making India an engine for its global growth. As the company looks to begin a new chapter in its journey, the business strategy has been recalibrated. It's also looking to fortify its offerings in India with a more relevant suite of products and solutions across sectors like telecom, public safety, logistics, transportation, retail, finance, and many more. And you would find some of the other small scale or large innovation deployed by NEC India in every domain. To elaborate on this and more on the journey the brand wishes to undertake, we have with us the President and CEO of NEC Corporation India, Mr. Alok Kumar. Welcome once again. It's a real honor to have you today. And I'll begin straight away with my first question to you. You know, NEC has been around, as I just said, for 70 years in a country that turns 75 a few days later on the 15th of August. So tell us about the journey so far and what have been the biggest milestones, so to say.
First of all, Suchetna, thanks a lot for having me, Outlook team. Thanks a lot for having me. It's not always that we get a chance, and I can promise you that what NEC has done in India in the last 70 years is quite a remarkable journey. Our journey has been, if you would be surprised to know some of the things that we have done in India has been, for example, as early as 1956, we were the first company to have supplied 2 gigahertz microwave communication system to National Physics Research Center in Ahmedabad. In 1964, when the fundamental outreach and the progress around science was happening in India, NEC supplied the satellite Earth station to VSNL and ONGC as early as 1964. We were the companies which were the first to supply the International Gateway Exchange to enable overseas communication in Delhi, Mumbai, and Madras. So in many ways, India's ability to be able to connect it to the rest of the world was started by NEC in 1977. And since then, we've done many marquee projects. Something more recently, when the mobile network revolution was happening in India in 2002, it was NEC which actually supplied nationwide GSM deployment for BSNL. We are also the company that a part of which is actually in each one of your pockets. So the Aadhaar card that you carry today, that sits on an NEC platform. We are the one who has enabled the entire multimodal biometric authentication for UIDAI authority and for Government of India. We have done many transportation projects, smart city projects, and we also have a joint venture with the Government of India as what we call as National Industrial Corridor Development and Implementation Trust to track 100% of the logistics in import and export container that comes in and out of India. So there's so many other projects to talk about, but we really, for the last 70 years, NEC has invested in building the backbone infrastructure on which Digital India is being built today. And this is a story that most people in India do not know. And the story we really would like to convey through your platform to the world.
Absolutely. It's fascinating, when you talk to a company which has been around for so many years, has actually seen the transformation of India, and perhaps in that, the role that a company like NEC has played. Another inflection point for the world as well as India has been really the pandemic. We have seen that there's been exponential growth when it comes to the IT sector, and that is a direct fallout of the pandemic. How are you seeing the your India operations contribute to the growth story with this growth that we're seeing in IT sector?
Yeah, I think, the pandemic has taken the entire ICT sector world over with a great degree of positive surprise. Some of the hitherto, roadblocks that people used to build in their mind as to how difficult it is to have an digitalization migration. Those mental roadblocks overnight was just busted. And we are seeing an enormous amount of not just large enterprises, but also governments, which are usually very slow to adopt. Governments and then enterprise, smaller, businesses that are very rapidly wanting to, digitalize their processes, their supply chain, their businesses. So we are seeing very, very attractive growth and very high demand for software professionals that India is known for. So NEC's growth strategy in India, answering your question, is really built around three pillars. Number one is around product and solution innovation. So we try to deliver, cutting edge technology to meet business and social challenges to improve the productivity of the people. The second is we like to deploy the right technology at the right place, at the right time, and most importantly, at the right cost. We strongly believe that there is a time when the right technology finds its place in the right time and in the right industry. And if you try to push that too hard, too fast, you will have challenges around business model, because affordability will be a question, adoption will be a question, and therefore economies of scale will be a question. And we have a big philosophy that we only try to propagate a technology in a sector that is ready. And we find India to be pregnant with many opportunities across multiple sectors that I'll talk about. And our third big pillar is that we are a Japanese company, and we take great pride in the fact that our project delivery capabilities are world class. And we try to bring our Japanese product delivery practices and deploy that not just in India projects, but also projects that are happening out of India for international markets. And that's how we are trying to really drive what we call as in India for India strategy and from India for global strategy.
Right. When you talk about products and solutions, so which are the top or marquee developments that are happening in NEC India, and what is the kind of uptake that you're seeing for it?
Yeah, I think we are an ICT company, but the biggest space that is consuming a lot of bandwidth is a poster child of development that is happening is in the telecom space around 5G. NEC happens to be one of the first countries on the planet to have implemented a working Open RAN network for a private operator in Japan. And a big part of that system integration work actually happened out of our Noida office, out of our Chennai office, in the R&D center in the laboratory. So we take great pride in the fact that we have actually created a completely new industry, which is going to disrupt the way telecom industry works. This Open RAN, infrastructure is attracting a lot of attention because it is going to displace the way, traditional incumbents have worked and operated for the carriers. It also holds enormous opportunity to make this industry extremely efficient. So it's going to be a win-win for the end users like you and me, and it is going to be a win-win for operators who need to have the right economies of return on their capex investment. We're seeing a lot of work around public safety. As digitalization has got pushed, we are seeing a lot of the government projects are now getting acceleration, where smart cities, government is getting more demanding around how they need to conduct, for example, police patrolling and surveillance. For example, experience around automation in airports. How we catch our, how we wait and catch our buses, how we run our bus fleets. We are seeing a lot of movement around aviation. And currently, as we speak, we are actually working on a cutting edge technology where you would not require any paper or any application to check into the airport. Your face is your check-in. So as you walk into an airport through facial recognition, you will get checked into the, somebody would already know that person so and so has a flight from Delhi to Mumbai. And as you walk into the Delhi airport, you will get a beep on your phone saying that you got to go to gate number 32 for boarding. So all the pieces that happens behind the scenes is what we are working on. We're doing a lot of work around the transportation sector, where we are trying to automate the vehicle planning system. So, it's not going to be a black box where you get to a bus stop and we hope that your bus will come in the next 15 minutes. You will be able to see it on your phone where exactly is the bus location, and therefore there will be better efficiency of time, better efficiency of, for example, a student's number of hours, a housewife's number of hours that she spends waiting outside. I think these are all fundamental work that NEC is helping government to improve the productivity of the society.
There are two questions. There are two aspects that come out when you talk about technology, and especially cutting edge technology of the future. One is the safety and the security. Cybersecurity is one aspect. The other is 5G. So I have two questions for you. One is the cybersecurity angle of technology which is futuristic, and I'll come to the 5G question perhaps after that.
Yeah. So look, the question around cybersecurity. I think cybersecurity has been around for a long time, but cybersecurity has been a realm and a point of concern for people who were handling large enterprises with big databases, and they were concerned about the intellectual property. They were concerned about compromise of their network and security. What pandemic and the COVID has done, and in a hybrid, working environment where your office has got extended into your homes, cybersecurity has got completely new set of vulnerabilities. And as a result of that, people have to get smarter, and people have to be more disciplined about the way they use their devices and their infrastructure. We in NEC take cybersecurity quite seriously, just like many of our peers and our competitors do that too. We have just recently launched a fully capable Chief Technology Officer office. And the purpose of this technology office, is to basically, for every project that we design and deliver, whether it is India and outside, cybersecurity is going to be an inherent part of the design of what we are offering to our customer. So it is not going to be any more about, we provide a solution, and that is not thinking 10 years from now. We are already educating our customers to help them understand what kind of solutions will be right for them, what kind of vulnerabilities their solutions and their budgets exposes themselves to, and how can we help them understand and graduate them into an infrastructure that becomes more robust and more secure for the future. So a lot of work happening on cybersecurity, more to be done. Cybersecurity, the cyber attacks has gone up close to 300% last year since pandemic has started.
Yeah, there's a joke, that the other pandemic that hit along with the pandemic, the coronavirus, is a cybersecurity pandemic. Numbers are staggering.
Absolutely. And you will it's not a surprise anymore. There was a point that I was quite surprised, but India is one of the top 3 countries which is getting the most cybersecurity attacks. And the reason for that is if you look at the backbone of the entire world, the IT backbone of the world gets offshored out of India. So a lot of the data centers, the cloud, the firewalls, etc., all kind of based out of India, and therefore the vulnerabilities get attacked out of India, and therefore it's getting a lot of attention. And therefore the world is also looking at us in India to be the thought leader and to be the technology leader in solving for the cybersecurity challenges that are emerging. So I think this is going to be a constantly evolving space. We are up for the challenge. We haven't seen major vulnerability emanating out of India so far, fingers crossed. But I think NEC, along with all the peer group companies, with great leadership from likes of NASSCOM and others, I think we are thinking ahead of how can we be ahead of the game on cybersecurity vulnerabilities.
I will come back to the other thread that I had picked up from your answers, which is 5G. India continues to be a laggard. While it did make some first moves way back in 2019, but somehow we believe that the pandemic has derailed all that. How can we, strengthen our digital public infrastructure and perhaps, in a way, not miss the 5G bus?
I wouldn't agree to the statement that India is a laggard on 5G. I think 5G is a complex technology, and it is a technology that, again, you have to be. Remember the statement that I made that every technology has to have the time when it is right for a particular society, community, government, country. And I don't think, while 5G is an extremely attractive, promising technology, it does not mean that every country is ready for it at the very same time. There are infrastructure investment issues, and therefore there are return on investment issues, and there are different businesses and different business models and different countries that have very different affordability. Mature markets like US and Europe will have far better maturity because people are ready to pay. There are certain price points and people are ready to pay. Economies, developing countries like India, most of Africa, and Southeast Asian countries, there will be a maturity curve that people will have to go through. And therefore, I don't think 5G technology is a laggard in India. But coming back to the more positive side of your question, which is what it's going to do, it is going to fundamentally change the way the business landscape, the government landscape, and any form of digital interaction happens in the country. Everybody who is in the IT industry always knew what a data infrastructure is doing. But people who were, before pandemic, people who were not very close to technology did not quite understand that. They just knew that when I turn the phone on, things work. They did not realize what goes behind it. What's the infrastructure that has gone behind it? But post-pandemic, even grandfathers and grandmothers know that in order to do a good quality Zoom call, there has to be a bandwidth behind why the calls have become. So there is a certain degree of understanding that has happened around what bandwidth can do. And what is bandwidth? 5G is what fundamentally in layman terms is just makes this pipe that brings the data to you, it makes into a massive size. So which means data tunnels and data corridors become bigger, they become faster. You are able to download data that is at about exponential speed of what 4G gives. And therefore the entire experience around how we consume data, the entire experience around how we organize ourselves, how quickly we are able to become more productive, that's going to change. That's for individuals and households. If you look at the enterprise sector, the manufacturing sector, for example, AI and ML has been, artificial intelligence, machine learning has been on the cards in the manufacturing sector for very long. But the reason why it has not got the boost is because it needs a certain data infrastructure for all of this to work very efficiently. And 5G, private 5G network builds that data and infrastructure for the enterprise sector. So it is going to provide a fillip for economies that is going to fundamentally change the way we operate and the way we work. It's going to lead to multiple disruption. Healthcare, again, your ability to be able to transfer diagnostic images from one point A to another point B where the doctor was sitting is possible today, even with the 4G infrastructure. 5G is going to make this even better. So, call it remote radiology or telemedicine. It is going to have a profound impact in the way, for example, the healthcare sector works, which was not possible before because, lines would drop, disruptions will happen, and therefore a healthcare giver would want you to be physically present. Now, I'm saying that would still stay, but a big part of that, for example, primary healthcare can get replaced by technology, and 5G will be the fundamental, backbone behind this. So I think the time for 5G has come. It's a question of what's the right model in which this gets built into India, and what's the affordability. I remember when we said that our philosophy is, technology, the right place, the right time at the most affordable cost. That is the part of the equation that we all, as a country, as a society, as government, and as enterprise, and as individuals, we need to always think about, which is we all can want 5G, but are we ready to pay for it? If you're not ready to pay for it, then the time has not come. But if we are ready to pay for it because we consume Netflix on a mobile phone, we are doing Zoom calls on the move. Our cars are more connected. Our helper is going out and shopping for grocery, and you can do video call to understand the quality of vegetable he or she is buying. All that requires infrastructure. All that requires bandwidth. And if you find value in that, then we as consumers should be ready to pay for it. And there starts the question of whether the time for this has come or not. So I strongly believe we are not a laggard. I think our time is about to come. Let me put it that way. But there's a lot of work happening. There's a lot of research work that is happening by the operators in India, and we are partnering with many operators in trying to understand how 5G can change the infrastructure for India. So I am personally extremely bullish about 5G and what it can do for India. The need for India story. 5G is going to be a fundamental enabler of the India story that we as Indians and the government has been propagating to the world. So very bullish about it.
Yeah, so while India, as you said, waits for its 5G story to begin, there are other moving factors there as well. We'll have to wait for a robust policy. We have to wait for the regulators to, also chime in to make the entire movement a robust movement, which actually also takes us and catapults us into the future. Now, another very interesting thing that has happened over the last 2 years is that how digital transformation has come out of the room of a CTO and become a boardroom decision, and it is a CEO's decision now. So, which are the industries that you think in your operations, which are your focus areas when it comes to digital transformation?
We are seeing massive movement and the intent of the government to digitalize India. We are seeing a lot of movement in that. And of course, COVID has come and it has disrupted a few of the plans, and everybody's life has got disrupted a little bit. But we are seeing a very firm determination by the government to follow through the, what we call as a 100 smart city plan. And, we've had, slow start, but broadly, I think we're seeing a lot of uptick on the smart city solutions. We are a leading provider of integrated, control and command and control center. We've implemented that in multiple smart city solutions. For example, we are currently, we've done that for Gurugram, for Surat, for Hubli, for, KDMC, etc. But we are also working currently in Saharanpur, Trivandrum, where we are looking at many aspects of the smart city. Whether it is surveillance, whether it is intelligent traffic management system, whether it is, better, waste management, whether it is simply control and command and control center for authorities to be able to look at how things are moving. So we are seeing a big amount of movement happening around that area. Logistics is another place where we are seeing a lot of activity. As you know, India's logistics infrastructure is massively fractured. It's a big push by NITI Aayog. It's a big push by the government for the last 20 years to actually improve the logistics infrastructure. But just the size, space, land acquisition rules, etc., makes it extremely challenging. We are one of the most invested, if I may proudly say, we are one of the most invested ICT operator in the logistics space in India. We actually have a joint venture with the government where we have created a container visualization system. So every container that comes into India, export-import container that comes into India, actually runs on an NEC platform, and we are able to visualize where that container is moving and how it's moving in the country. So we are able to come up with things like, what's the idle time, what's the container utilization, etc. And through that, downstream, that data can be used, for example, better planning of surface transport and highways. Where should be the rest areas for the driver? Where are the congestions happening? Where does the highway need expansion? So the kind of work that we are doing can have massive fundamental and foundational impact on the way India is thinking of planning itself. We are seeing a lot of movement on the aviation space. I mean, it's not a new story that, airports are getting more and more crowded. Smaller cities are making bigger airports to manage the traffic. And we are seeing a lot of, and the pandemic has actually helped us in actually accelerating the so-called touchless aviation experience. So right now, as I was explaining in the start of this interview, we're working on a solution where without touching anything, so you don't have to go to any kiosk counter for check-in. Just through your face, the moment you walk into the airport, through your face, you will get checked in, and you don't have to do anything else. Obviously, you have to register yourself, you have to allow for privacy reasons, etc. But that's the level at which we are now trying to operate. And these solutions are something that we as NEC have implemented in overseas geographies. We are bringing that technology into India. Currently, it's we are doing the testing at Varanasi Airport, and we've got the mandate to implement that on 3 other airports to start with. And as the Airport Authority of India gets more and more convinced by the ease of its use which we are very convinced about, then I think we will be able to exponentially grow this into other markets. And that can have massive impact in terms of throughput, productivity, number of passengers that an airport is able to handle, etc. So again, I will go back to what we as NEC do is we are invested in creating fundamental infrastructure of the country. We do a lot of other things, like we make apps and we make, cloud solutions and artificial intelligence solutions, etc. But what we take great pride in the fact is that we create fundamental ability of the economy and societies to become more productive. We allow individuals, our technology allows individuals and societies and governments and enterprises to become more productive than they were before, than they were yesterday. And I think doing that is a hard job, because anybody can come and paint the wall of a house and make it look pretty. But when we have to create the foundation of an already established house, when you have to dig under and redo the plumbing, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of project execution capability. So that's where we are really invested in. Sorry, a little long answer, but I just wanted to give you a flavor.
It's absolutely exciting to hear about all the innovations that you spoke about. You spoke about the sectors. Now, you said how you're focusing on end-to-end tracking when it came to logistics, or for that matter, complete touchless when it comes to the travel sector. What are the top trends that you're seeing when it comes to digital transformation?
This is a great topic, my favorite topic. There's so much happening in terms of trend. But I would say there are 5 or 6 that I feel is going to change every individual, every government, and every enterprise in the way they look at their businesses. And I would say, this so-called COVID-induced, acceleration of digitalization is going to fundamentally change the economic life cycle. So much so that now people are talking about how 4th industrial revolution will get accelerated because of the productivity that digitalization is bringing. So the application of AI, analytics, etc., will change all the phases of economic activity, from design to production, will get impacted. And what can be said is that digitalization will be everywhere, and it will be critical to both national productivity and the success of individual companies and sectors. So that's number one. I think it's here to stay. I talked about smarter cities. We are embracing more digital today than ever. And as I was saying, our senior citizens who were considered technology laggards are now becoming increasingly tech savvy. I can call my mother, who's 78-year-old, and she will be happy to get on a Skype call or a WhatsApp call pretty quickly, and she will know exactly what buttons to do and all kind of stuff. And 1 year back, she didn't even know which button to press to. So I think we are seeing that kind of a change. Now, what that is doing is that, therefore, the expectation of a digitalized productivity is moving into our government's functioning. And that has huge implications on the way we as citizens will begin to demand from the government on what we expect from our cities to do, what our transports to do, how our logistics should operate, how our safety should operate. It has to become smarter and more digitally enabled. If a law and order situations happens today on the roadside, the first thought does not go in who was around. The first thought was, where was the nearest camera? And can I get some surveillance footage from the camera as to who has done it? And, that is it's a tectonic shift in the way we are thinking. And I think smarter cities is going to become a thing that is going to get only accelerated. Consumer shopping behavior, a lot has been talked about it, but how big data and AI can help solve the shopping experience, as well as improve the bottom line for retailers, that will create a win-to-win. I talked about telemedicine. I think the healthcare sector will see a massive impact. And what can technology do? Because that will have implications on, trust with your caregiver, data privacy, and the economic value chain. The same doctors for whom you had to wait months to get an appointment at a certain cost is now available on Zoom from another city, and can give a near same level of healthcare. So what does that do to the sector? is something to be thinking about, and technology will play a massive role. It's already playing a massive role. I think, the fifth one I would say is supply chain resiliency. More buyers are shifting online, which means there will be implication on inventory requirement, and therefore more homogeneous integration of demand and supply. It's not going to be a shop where you dump 50 items of 50 SKUs, and you hope 35 of them will sell, and then you discount 15 of them, and then new items will come. It's not going to work like that. So I think it will have impact on the way the entire supply chain works through by leveraging big data and machine learning. And the future of work, hybrid model means that the organization culture, ethos, and working dynamics will get recalibrated. It's a big statement I'm making, and people will say, "Oh, my culture will never get shifted." It will, because the same culture that people used to exchange in real time on the corridors of office is not going to happen like that. So we'll have to all think through what kind of organization culture we are going to have. And there will be implications on technology becoming the highway on which the talent interaction and skill sets will crisscross. It's not going to happen on the real world office corridors. So again, technology will play a very big role. So how do you make technology a warm persona that helps two individuals or teams to come together? And in doing that, you're spending less time on unproductive part of technology, but how technology becomes a part of how it's enabling. And the last, I think, is my favorite, which is democratization of AI. Artificial intelligence is here to stay. We are already seeing it. There will be a lot of noise. There will be a lot of rebellion. There will be a lot of privacy issues, etc. But eventually, it will all settle down, and artificial intelligence will have an impact in everything that we do, from banking to retail to e-commerce, agriculture, healthcare, insurance, logistics, transportation. It will become the rule. It already was becoming. It is getting even more accelerated. So I think I have tried to give you a trend where technology will have a big role to play. And I think it will make our world smaller. Yeah. Not that it was not already becoming small. It will make it smaller and faster, which means when you begin to live in a smaller space and you begin to move very fast in that space, it will have a new dynamics of social interaction. And I think that is the biggest impact that our society will go through this technology acceleration. And I think our next generations will have some of the big questions to solve, as we go along. So I would say that's really, in my mind, the big impact of emerging trends.
While we'll wait for the next generation to ask vital questions, very important questions, I have just one last question. All the trends that you mentioned, these say hybrid work, these are terms which actually were in the air maybe before the pandemic, but really came into the currency with the pandemic. 1 year down the line, since the pandemic hit Indian shore, when you look at your clients, when you look at the solutions and products you are developing, do you think that somewhere this digital transformation wave has lost steam?
I don't think so at all. I don't think it will lose steam at all. I think I'll tell you what, one way to explain the chaos is that there were many technologies and many products that were finding its space, that were trying to explain to the world why they are relevant. What the pandemic has done is that they have just pushed all of them in the deep side of the pool. And there are many takers for that technology. So suddenly the technology sector has seen massive demand, and anybody who's in this sector is going to, it's like a high tide raises everybody, right? It raises all the boat on the shore. So everybody is rising up. But over a period of time, I think there will be more structure and there will be more organization that will begin to happen, but it will never lose its steam. I will give you an analogy. Can you ever think of a world where you will go to 5 or 6 days to office and never coming back? You will probably go to work for 2 days, for 3 days, for various reasons, maybe 5 days in 1 week of the month, but you're not going to do a 25-day, office week anymore. And that's the tectonic shift that this is going to happen. So digitalization, hybrid workspace, as you talked about, is here to stay. I think there will be other challenges that will come around it. There will be domino effect of challenges. For example, organizations like us will have to really think through How do I make more connections of that employee that has chosen to work from a tier 3 city? Yesterday, he or she did not have the choice and therefore had to work from a tier 1 city. Today, technology is enabling he or she to work in tier 3 city. How do I make that person still be connected to a larger brand? How do I make this person feel a part of a larger family, which is what a real world was getting you to do? Because you were coming to office, you were meeting your colleagues, you were experiencing, the office space and everything else. That's not happening anymore. So what this is going to disrupt is the way we organize the culture and the way we think of like I was saying, the talent corridors and the skill set crisscross that happens. But it is definitely here to stay. I don't think it is losing steam. I think it may find different investment and it'll move into different directions.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, technology and futuristic technology will perhaps unleash chaos, but it will also be the pivot around which emerging economies like India will find new growth trajectories. Our lives will change, of course, for the better, but we need to find a way in it. And as your tagline says, NEC makes it happen. So yes, amidst all this that's going to happen, NEC will make the change happen. NEC will make the path towards future technology easier and the adoption much easier. It was great chatting with you, Alok. Lovely hearing from you about NEC's contribution towards digital transformation in the last 70 years. You spoke about the trends that are coming, the new exciting innovations that are taking place. Thank you so much for taking this time out. I enjoyed chatting with you. And those watching us, I'm sure, will enjoy also watching this interview. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me over. Thanks a lot.